I'm Jarrett Carpenter, and this is More Than Blockchain. On this episode, I get to talk to Daniella Rosa, who is the founder of AIEA Golf. Daniella, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. I'm so excited to be here.
Here we are, and we've just talked, but I know you're in Austin, and Austin is actually where we met, I believe.
It is.
Was that September of 2023?
It was, I can't remember what conference it was. Was it
Permissionless? I remember it was permissionless.
Yes, so it must have been around then.
Okay.
Not
cool.
that long. Yeah.
And we ran into each other, and you were like, I'm doing a Web3 golf company. And I was like, okay, whoa.
Yeah.
I remember we connected, and here we are today, and let's talk about your company.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. Yeah, we met at the coffee bar.
That's right. That's right.
At the conference, and we just started talking. So I'm the founder of AIEA Golf, a women's golf apparel and lifestyle brand, which officially launched this January 2024, after a 2-year build. So the crux of my business is to create elevated sportswear looks for the golf course for women, which does not exist still to this day, believe it or not. So I'm very focused on high quality performance fabrics, the style, how styles actually fit on a woman's body when they're swinging a golf club. But all of the golf wear does not look golfy, because that's my personal style. I don't like to look golfy on the golf course. So I made sure that the pieces are very transitional off the course. So a lot of pickleball players like my stuff, tennis players like my stuff, runners love my stuff too, which I love. So yeah, just trying to change the golf apparel world one day at a time.
That sounds like quite the undertaking, because we were just talking about this off mic, but I recently, getting ready for the episode, I was reviewing one of the podcasts you were on, and you were just talking about how you really want it to be seamless, where you can get off the course, get off the back nine, and then just be in life. Go to a coffee shop, go to a lunch, go hang out with some friends, and it not be like, wow, she just got off the golf course. Okay, with that said, the question I have is interested. It's based on the fact that I was like, okay, wait. You're telling me no one else does good golf apparel? And then I looked on Adidas and I looked at Nike in the last hour, and you were 100% right. It's super golfy. So yeah, it's almost like you're introducing the iPhone in 2007, right? The fall of 2007, because people maybe don't even understand that there's a problem until you're like, oh, look at this solution. So how has that been for you when you're talking, especially with women who are in golf?
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. Even the big dogs, if you will, aren't doing anything about it, which to me is mind blowing. There's a huge market for cool women's golf apparel, or just golf apparel that doesn't look like the traditional style. Those are the only styles we have as women to choose from still to this day. And I'm like, how is no one doing anything about this? So I come from a place, as a golfer of many years. I've been golfing for over 20 years now, and I used to play competitively when I was younger, and now just socially as an adult. So it's a true problem for me, in the golf space, and it's something I've lived with for a long time. And before I had kind of the vision for my business, I was talking to my girlfriends and people that don't even play golf, friends that just want to drive the cart, my girlfriends that just want to drive the cart, and they say, I can't even find an appropriate golf course outfit that I like, that I can even drive my husband in the golf cart with. There's nothing. Everything is either way too tight and short, or it's very long and grandma-like. Like there's nothing in between still. I quit my job, of a career I had for 10 years, over 2 years ago now, and I've been doing this full-time ever since. And people are just mind blown when they see my product, because they're like, how has no one done this yet? And I'm like, I don't know, but I'm doing something about it.
Yeah, I loved it. And I had never even considered this. And obviously we are going to get into the Web3 side of this. This is More Than Blockchain, and we did meet at Permissionless.
Yes.
But something that you probably don't know, unless maybe I mentioned when we met, is years ago I had a t-shirt company, and it was a political t-shirt company. And if people can go look it up, but basically it was in and around the 2016 election. I felt a certain type of way, so I made a t-shirt that was very inclusive, and it basically just said bridges, not walls. And I had it sourced through a company out of San Francisco that sources from Cambodia, because I wanted it to be sourced taking into account kind of a B corporation, right? People, profit, and planet. Yeah. And I had no idea how difficult that was going to be, because for one of the shirts we actually had it made. And I heard you recently talking about how difficult that was. And when I think about you talking about how difficult it was, I think about Phil Knight and Shoe Dog. Have you read that book?
That's my favorite book. I cried at the end. It resonated so much with me, and I'm like, this is exactly what I'm going through right now. Yeah.
It's an amazing book. And actually, if anyone's listening to this and they want it and they're like, oh, send that to me, I have the book and I'll send it to you if you want to listen. Sounds like I don't need to send it to you. You've read it, because that book, once you've read it, you're like, okay, Phil Knight was like the 70s and he's running around, I think, Korea when it was still called the Blue Ribbon Sports. And he's just
Yeah.
trying to source materials. And I think now, here we are in 2024, people must be like, Daniela, that's not so difficult. There's the
Oh,
internet, right?
yeah.
So if you want to go ahead and just talk about some of the trials and tribulations you've gone through in just creating this, because one of the things I know you really want out of this is custom apparel. You don't just want to get some blank t-shirt, throw a logo on it, and do what everyone else is doing with a Shopify. So I would love to hear kind of your wins and losses, if you will.
Oh God. I mean, that could take up the whole hour, but I'll keep it short. So the manufacturing process and production process, as you know, is very time consuming, more expensive than you think it is, and it just is something that's not straightforward ever. Like there's no way for it to be straightforward unless you've done it for 5 years and you're producing 50,000 units and you've got it down with the factory like that. So my coming into this business and building this business, it was really important to me, as you said, that I'm not just finding a t-shirt online, putting my logo on it and selling it, because one of the biggest problems we have in the golf industry, even for men's apparel, is the fabrics are absolute garbage. They're made out of like that plasticky, I don't even know what it's called, like plasticky polyester fabric that doesn't breathe, that like sticks to your skin. You feel like you're in a heat box and it's 1,000 degrees here in Austin and no one, knows how to feel. And there's no kind of elevated fabrics that actually move with your body when you're taking the swing and keeping you cool and their performance. So that took me the longest time to source fabrics. Sourcing fabrics, performance fabrics that are high quality at low quantities, which is what I wanted, is very, very difficult, almost more difficult than finding a factory that will take on producing low quantities. Finding the fabrics is incredibly difficult, and no one tells you that, and how would I know? So that took me forever and 45 iterations to do that in two different factories. Many factories were, I tried to do it by myself at first, before I used a middleman to help me facilitate the process. And factories wouldn't even talk to me. They either didn't respond, they were like, come back when you're producing 10,000 units, or we can tell you don't know what you're doing. I was like, they're not wrong. They are not wrong. And I understand they're not going to be making any money from me. So I ended up having to hire a middleman to help me facilitate that process and get the performance fabrics that I wanted. That was a big one for that. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I'm actually wearing, if you're watching this on YouTube or if you can see this, I'm wearing a jersey. This is
Yeah.
a Lionel Messi jersey. And obviously, well, not obviously, it's a knockoff. I got it in the streets of Bogota for, I don't know, $12 because I wasn't going to spend the 180. But it is exactly that fabric you are talking about.
Yeah, I'm
It does
sure.
not breathe. Yeah. And if I were not in the high elevation of Bogota, if I were in Austin, Texas, and we were on the back nine right now, I would be sweltering because this would
Right.
just be crushing me. Right. So
Yeah.
I think that these are things that people just don't think about when they go to a store or they think about a brand. And having looked at your brand and also gone through that, where I also basically had a broker, because when you show up, they're like, yeah, okay, we want 10,000 units minimum. And each
Yeah.
one of your units is, $20. Well, guess what? That's hundreds of thousands of dollars all of a sudden of upfront capital, and you're not even sure if it's going to go.
100%.
So crazy.
Yeah.
Right now, where is the business? Because you said that you launched in January, and I
Yes.
know we're going to get into your membership program a little bit because that's some of the NFT stuff. But where's the business now? Because it's like you quit your job, I believe, 2022. Is that right?
End of 2021, December 2021. Yes.
Okay, December 2021 into 2022, you're going full time into this.
Yes.
We meet in 2023, which is somehow 9 months ago because time is flying. Where are we now in the business? And, it's the summer months. How are we doing with sales? How's momentum?
Yeah. So, I mean, first and foremost, when I started, in a very naive sense of how to build a fashion brand. In January 2022, I'm like, I'm going to have my first line out by November 2022. It took me 2 years, 14 months of development, and 2 years to actually get the company launched. So it took me until January 2024 to actually launch the company. Did my full launch at the PGA show in Orlando, which is the biggest golf show, trade show in the world. It happens once a year, every year in Orlando. So that was also my testing ground of seeing, okay, I'm validating myself for 2 years. I hope people in the golf world also like what I'm doing. And so I went into there kind of just hoping for the best, and no one knew who I was, and I didn't really have a plan. I had a general sense of what I was doing and just taking feedback. And the feedback was overwhelmingly positive, and it just made my heart melt in the best way of like, I'm onto something. I'm not totally crazy. Thank God. And, it gave me that little, lit my fire again, that I'm onto something. So that was really great for validation. And it's just since January, it's just been nonstop events. I sponsor golf tournaments all the time, locally in Austin and around the country. I'm now sponsoring pickleball tournaments too. Pickleball people love my stuff, like I mentioned before, just to get brand awareness. I'm a one-person team. So, I have my social media. I hire out a social media team to help me with marketing that way, but I'm on the ground like waving my AIEA Golf flag all day, being like, "Look at me, look at my clothes." I'm getting into some golf shops, golf pro shops, indoor golf centers, and yeah, sales are consistent. I definitely sell more when I'm physically with the product, and I'm hoping to gain more traction throughout the rest of the year as people learn about the brand.
You know, I have never been to a golf expo, never mind the biggest golf expo in the world. Can you kind of break down what that looks like? Like, what are other things? Are people just trying to launch new products to help your swing? Everything from new shoes? Like, what does that look like? And how did your product fit within the other kind of offerings?
That's a great question because I love to talk about it. So, first of all, just like basically everything with this business, I'm going in basically blind. I just, I have the idea of what I'm doing and my knowledge and as much research as I can do beforehand. No one told me how big PGA show was. I knew it was a big deal, but I didn't realize how big of a deal it was until I was physically on site. And just the physical building that it was in, it took me from one side of the convention center to the other. I kid you not, it took me 15 minutes to walk from one side. So that's how many brands are there launching new stuff. And of course, there's, Titleist and Callaway and Nike. They have these huge $2 million booths that are like playgrounds within it. And it's just one of those things that looks like a Disneyland for golf. And, a few things I noticed when I was there. One, it was mostly men, which was not surprising. Like the golf world is mostly men still. And, it's more and more women are coming into the sport, but, it's going to be it's still going to be a little bit of a slow turnover, I think. And two, my booth, and my clothing style just stuck out like a sore thumb. And I say that in the best way. Everything around me was the same, like pink, fluffy shoulder t-shirts and the skirts with like the terrible patterns that I've seen for 20 years on them. The same like pink paisley, fluffy, grandma looking stuff was all around me all day for women's golf apparel. And I was coming in with like black, white, booth, New York City style, like pops of green, a little bit of neon over here, very clean, classic. So people, when they were walking by the booth, I could tell they were like, they didn't know what it was. They would walk by, they would come back, start feeling my fabrics and go, wow, this is really quality. That's how the conversation got started. And so it was a specific type of buyer that would come by the booth too, someone that's a little bit more forward thinking. Maybe the members at their clubs are playing pickleball and tennis also, again, like very transitional, so they could sell it to multiple groups of people. Younger people were coming to the booth and saying, oh my God, finally, shorts that don't look like Bermuda shorts, thank God, and things like that. So the whole experience was absolutely incredible. It was so stressful too. I've never built a booth I've never built a trade show booth, and no one tells you how hard that is. I'm like nailing stuff myself. I'm like, no one teaches you how to do this. No one tells you the back end. It was good
Yeah,
though.
putting booths together is it's an entire undertaking.
Yeah.
I currently work for a Bitcoin company and do the media and branding, and we're in conference season. So that means the guy who normally does my designing, he's gone half the time, at least his time, right? I just can't access him because he's getting ready for all of the things where we're going to have booths, and it is really time consuming. And it also needs to be very specific because they are like, you can play within the sandbox. You do not go
Yep,
outside the sandbox.
totally.
So yeah, so 'cause I wanted to ask you about the conferences because I've never been to one of those, and I can imagine, as you said, in my mind's eye, I was like probably dominated by male, and
Mhm.
then if they do have women's stuff, story in my head also is it may also be designed by men for
Oh,
women, which just doesn't take into account women.
yeah, and you can tell it's designed by men because of just how it fits on the body, right? Like it's basically a men's shirt shrunken in, so it never fits right in the bust for tops, and it doesn't bottoms never fit correctly in the hips because it's like a little bit straighter, and of course women have like a little bit curvier hips. So I was very specific about making sure that I was the fit model because I am a woman, and I wanted to make sure it fit my body correctly, and just scale up and down from there to make sure that it is truly women's golf wear made for women by a woman. Concept, I know, crazy
It's
concept.
crazy. How could you possibly dare? You've mentioned pickleball, and pickleball is something that I've been kind of reluctant to do. And then once I did, I was like, okay, all right, this is amazing. And now I've played, and I want to get paddles, and there's places to play here in Bogota. And when I'm back home, I want to play as much as I can. I feel like it may be an easy thing. And I know you're focused obviously on golf, right? It's AIEA Golf, but I feel like it might be a really easy thing to kind of jump into pickleball quickly just because that's something that seems to be taking off. Its growth has been like no other sport. I was looking at a chart ever. So, how many people are buying that? And I also heard you speak before about how on another podcast that men are buying your products, but they're buying some of the unisex products, right? Like they're buying the socks or the hats.
Yeah.
So yeah, how much of all your sales, what percentage isn't golf?
So first of all, men are still my biggest customer. That's still my biggest, ironically, that's still my biggest customer base. So they're buying, my sunglasses are my best-selling product right now.
Okay.
They are just flying off the shelf. I sold 7 pairs yesterday. It's just one of those things that I'm so glad I took the time to really, look into the sunglasses and how I created them, because they're truly UV, truly polarized, and people want to protect their eyes when they're outside. Like again, concept, who would have thought? So, pickleball people also like the sunglasses because they protect your eyes from the balls. And as you mentioned, the pickleball scene just is skyrocketing everywhere, especially here in Austin, where I'm based. And people are just so aggressively into it. And I say that in a good way. I too was hesitant to get into it. But I've played once and it was fine. It was fun. I had a good time. But my golf swing definitely makes it harder because I'm always like doing the golf swing with the paddle, which I guess you're not supposed to do. But yes, a lot of pickleball people are buying the sunglasses, the hats, the socks, also my shorts, because they have the pockets and they're double lined, and that's what a lot of women are looking for. And then men are buying for their wives and girlfriends because they are trying to get them into golf, or their wives and girlfriends like to play golf, but they have nothing to wear, so they don't go to the course. And I'm like, I get it. I totally understand. So,
So one of the things I've already called up, but two of the things that I know are very important to you. One of them is having custom made high quality clothing that designed by a woman for women, right? The
mhm.
other thing I know is the building up of community. And I've heard you talk on other outlets basically saying, look, there's not in great places, even digital spaces where people can meet who are from all different levels of golf. And I'll be 100% honest, I don't play golf probably because it feels intimidating. It feels
Yeah.
uber exclusive in the town I grew up. I never felt welcome at the country club to be 100%. And never mind if I were to get out there and have my skill be exposed.
Right.
So, it's kind of like if we could talk about the building of the community and what you're doing, that is all brands now are community. And I was actually watching an Instagram, and I can share it with you, but it was like a running club. And it's a running club in Austin, and I'm blanking on the name, and otherwise I'd give them a shout out because I think they're doing cool stuff. But it's basically a brand, a clothing brand, but they've like, it's all about a running club, and then, they have clothing. But really the clothing is the first thing. They've just done it really well. So what does the community building, because now brands, especially as we slide into the conversation about Web3, you need to have a community to boost your brand. It's no longer you need a brand to build a community. You can just have a community, and then that can feed into a brand.
Right. So when I started AIEA, two things were really important to me. One was creating physical apparel that is made for a woman on the golf course, that is high quality and this and that. Check, doing that. The second part was the community building aspect is still so important to me. And what in my head that means, okay, I've been playing golf for over 20 years. I know how to walk into a traditional golf club. I know how to walk on a municipal course. I know how to walk into an indoor golf club. I know how to do all of those things. I know what to bring. I know what to wear. Just, it's like second nature to me now, just because I've been doing it for so long. Even if people are looking at me because I'm the only woman, it doesn't matter because I know how to play, whatever. Most people, men and women, it's intimidating to do any of those things, especially if you don't know or you're newer to golf. And everyone thinks that they can just pick up golf. Golf is like not the easiest sport to just pick up. It's very technical. You have to be in balanced mind when you're playing. It's a very mental sport, and people forget about that. And so, it takes some practice, and you want to be around good people, and it's not the easiest thing to do sometimes. So you want to feel comfortable and in a good space. And so building community for me means more than actually just the golf side of things. It's more about let's bring people together who have an interest in golf culture. That's more of like the crux of community building for me. Whether you're looking to play, whether you just want to drive the cart for your mom or your boyfriend or whatever, or you like the clothes, we all can come together in a community and just hang and like be together and learn from each other and build this next generation of golf culture together, because that's what it's all about. It's not just about what's your handicap anymore. Thank God. It's not just about that. It's not about how far you can hit your drive. It's more about let's get into a sport that we can do outside together, get some exercise in, maybe have a drink or three, and make new friends and learn something new. So to bring people together that way in the cultural side of it. So to me, that brings in fashion, tech, and golf all together. And to create that low pressure entry point of like, whatever you want to do in the golf world, you can. You don't even have to ever pick up a club if you want to wear AIEA golf gear. It doesn't matter. But let's come together and do something fun and like create the next generation of golf clubs.
Cool. Fashion, community, tech.
Yeah.
We obviously met at Permissionless. Talk to me about Web3, how it fits into the overall brand, because I think from what I can see from 30,000 feet, what you're doing, every single brand, if they're not doing it now, they will be doing it in the next 24 months, as obviously we go back into a crypto bull run and people start literally Googling crypto again.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was also when I started building out this business. The Web3 component was also very important to me, just because I have a personal interest in the space and it's something I've been learning about for a number of years now. And I just think it's cool, and it's going to take over the world in 5 years and no one knows what's going to hit them, kind of thing. There's a lot of changes going on, and I think there's an ability to build in a way that you can't traditionally, especially as a brand. So I knew from day one when AIEA Golf was trademarked that I was going to incorporate Web3 into this business, rain or shine. Like it was going to happen no matter what. And how I'm doing that is through the community building aspect right now. So when it comes to, again, community building, you could do it in a traditional way of getting an email list together and having people sign up for your e-blast, which I do. I have all those things. Collecting names at golf tournaments, things like that. But to me, there's a more exciting and novel way to get people engaged in a brand, and that is via an NFT membership project. And I never say the word NFT to people because it freaks people out. And I learned that the hard way at PGA show. Like people's eyes glazed over when I said NFT, when I said Web3. I had chips in some of my clothing at that point, and people were like, it just like blew people away in a not a good way. So I'm learning how to, start this discussion. But, for building out a membership program, which I have. It's called the Season Pass. I launched it in November. It's something I was building out for about a year at that point. And it was my take on the AIA, what I think the AIA ecosystem should look like, the beginning of an AIA ecosystem. People that are passionate about golf, they love my clothing, and they want to be part of this like next generation women's golf apparel brand. Let's come together and do cool stuff in real life and digitally. So, building that out, I've had a tremendous amount of learning experiences through that. For me, I wanted to build it out in that way for a number of reasons. One, I own my community. It's basically first party data for me. I'm not going through a Google or an AOL or whatever to get that information. It's direct to consumer in that way for me. So I have direct access to my people under this AIA Golf ecosystem umbrella, and we can grow this membership and how it scales together. Like I want people to be a part of this, not just big man on top. I want people to come together and build community in the way that feels right to a lot of people and see how it morphs over time. So that was important to me. And then, the normal Web3 stuff, it's proof of ownership. There's like very literal proof of ownership for people who own the season pass membership. You can see it on the blockchain, there's all that good stuff. And then there is the ability for me to look into people's wallets too and see what other things that they're interested in, what other groups are a part of, what other NFT memberships that they hold. So I can also curate experiences in that way that make sense to the members that are holding the season pass as well. So that's where I'm at with that right now. I've put it back in beta at the moment. I've learned a lot over the past couple months, just what an NFT project entails and how it's pivoted already. But I have a really good feeling about the trajectory of that side of the biz.
It was great to hear that it took you a year to get it before you launched, because I think a lot of people coming into NFTs, probably like the people who were at the conference, their eyes glazed because they were like, oh, this is a scam, right?
100%.
This is a money grab. She's not about community. She's using community as the veneer to separate me from my money, or me from my Ethereum, or me from my crypto. So talk to me actually. I mean, if you're open to, I'd love to know about a failure that maybe no one else knows about and only you know about in that year, because building an NFT project, the biggest NFT projects have teams of 10 and 15 and 20 behind them. And it looks like there's just one person on, Twitter or whatever who's running that, but no, they're massive. So if you could, I would love to hear, just like you had trials and tribulations in the sourcing of materials, I'm sure you had the same, going on with the NFT project.
Oh, all day. So as you know, building an NFT project in a space that's morphing faster than you can say the word NFT is already a difficult thing to do. It's like, you're learning about something that like kind of exists, but it's going to be different tomorrow. And there's so many things. When I started building out the project, there weren't even, the ability, my members would have to get a true wallet via MetaMask or something like that. And it's still like to this day kind of difficult even for Web3 people, if you want to call us that, to get into a MetaMask wallet. Like there's so many steps and it takes forever, and like sometimes you can't find what you need to find. And at the very base of what I'm trying to do is bring people into this golf community in an easy way. And I didn't want people to have to do 400 steps in order to get into my membership program. So that was very important to me, that it was very easily accessible. You could pay for the membership with a credit card, just like you would check out something on Amazon, and you didn't even know it was an NFT. Like you didn't even know it was based on blockchain technology. It just was the same thing that you're used to. So building that out in that way, like that part of the technology, like didn't even exist at the end of 2022. Now there are some people that I'm working with and some companies that I'm working with that, you can put in an email and it automatically creates a wallet for the user, and it's easy for them to access that wallet, and they don't have to do all the back end stuff through MetaMask and stuff. So that's good. Finding people to help me build out this project, I had to hire out, right? Like I'm building a whole golf company, and I needed to hire out for this project. Finding people to help me with this that have good intentions. That was something I wasn't expecting would be so difficult. Um, I am building relationships with people just like you and I. We met at a conference. I go to 5 crypto conferences a year at least, and just I'm learning as I'm going and meeting people. Most everyone I meet is a dime. Like people are really, they want to learn, they want to connect, and I've had really good experiences with people. Unfortunately, I got looped in with someone who was saying he could do the world, and just there was no foundation behind it. And it was a giant learning experience for me because he was helping me build out this project for about 8 months. It's not like we like just met and then bad things started happening for about 8 months. And when it came time to deliver my assets and my deliverables, took my money and the assets and ran, and like just out of like poof, gone. After 8 months, I knew about his family, his children, like we talked all the time. And it was just one of those things of like, I had to go through that experience and learn about it the hard way. So that was unfortunate. That was unfortunate. Yeah, I would say that was my biggest learning experience. Just not letting people sway you from the original vision. That's where I was going. So my original vision actually was to put chips or NFCs into my physical garments, which would loop you into the AIEA Golf membership ecosystem. I pivoted away from that because I was taking cues from other projects that were happening that were more discount heavy. So you would buy into a membership in order to get discounts at A, B, C, and D brands. My membership started moving that way, and that's how it launched. It launched discount heavy towards different amazing brands that I have collaborations with here in Austin and around the country. And I also learned the hard way that people aren't going to buy a membership in order to get discounts. Like it's not exciting enough. It makes it feel like a cash grab, which is not me, and it's not what I'm trying to do, and it's not a way to get people engaged. I'm more focused on like in real life connections and cool digital stuff on the side. So now I have put the project back in beta for that purpose. I am now putting chips in my clothing, which was always the original vision. And so when you scan the chip in my next collection, it will automatically loop you into the AIEA Golf ecosystem via the season pass. And I used to have it, you had to pay $200 a year for it. Now you don't pay for it. Now it's free to anyone who purchases a garment with the chip in the clothing. And you're automatically looped in, and you'll get benefits through that as well. So those are 3 big ones for me.
Well, that sounds great, because I think one of the biggest things for NFTs, and this is where they struggle, is you have to constantly give back more than you're asking for,
Yeah.
which is a very difficult relationship. If my relationship with you is I'm always giving more than you're willing to give to our friendship, it's just not
Yeah.
going to work. So the only way I've seen great NFTs work is that has to happen on scale, because that way you're giving something out digitally that is more than what has been promised. So you're over delivering, under promising. But as long as you're doing that at scale, it's okay. But when you do that, if it's not, so how many people, if you had to say, and taking into account that this is an assumption, but my assumption here is that Bitcoin's going to explode. Everyone's going to go crazy again. You and I are going to get calls from our friends, family members, roommates from college saying, hey, what's this thing about?
Yeah.
What's your 2025 when you think about the membership? For you, I'm assuming it's more quality. If you had 30 women in this thing, you'd be like, this is badass. But where do you think it could go? And like, what's the potential? And what would be a metric of success?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I agree with you. And even for things like social media, for me, I'd rather have 10 real diehard AIEA Golf fans than 100,000 bots any day. Any day, I'll take that. I am really trying to build community that is focused on one another and that they want to grow with one another. And I could do meetups in different cities like Austin and New York and LA or wherever. So I have stepped back, put my ego in check for a second to say this process is going to be a slower build, just A, because I'm a one person team, and B, that's how you get the most organic growth anyways. So to really build the good thing about all of the trials and tribulations that have happened from this and building out this NFT project is that it's forced me to slow down. It has forced me to slow down and look at how people react to hype, right? Or how I describe the project, right? Like I don't use words like NFT. I barely say the word digital anymore, just to not freak people out. So in 2025, if I can have 1,000 AIEA Golf people that are down for AIEA Golf, I would be beyond thrilled. Like I would write notes to every one of them, like that kind of thing. I'd rather have 1,000 people only for till the end of time that I can really build relationships with, than again, like 100,000 people that don't care about what's going on and building this next generation of golf culture. Because within also this scope of the project, and as I'm building it out, I want people, without becoming a DAO, I do want to allow people voting rights in certain capacities for how I build out my next collections, whether it's colorways or fabrics. Like no one ever asked me what color I would like to wear on the golf course. So I want to give that to people too. Little things like that. So,
Okay, you said something there that I philosophically agree with, so I want to dive a little bit deeper.
okay.
Why don't you want AIEA Golf to turn into a DAO?
I looked into it. It's, first of all, the scale of doing that it's just more capacity than I can hold.
Okay.
I also think from my experience, some of these DAOs, even that I'm involved in, they're becoming like corporations. Um, I don't know. I want to keep things more free flowing. Just I want it to morph with the community and morph with the vision. My vision has morphed in this 2.5 years that I've been building this business with the same like foundation. And I think sometimes with DAOs, at least again, like the ones I'm involved with, it's a little bit harder to get the people where they want to go, which sounds ironic because it should be the other way around. So yeah, I think that's basically why.
Yeah, no, I just completely agree with you. And I've had multiple guests on here who are super DAO and they think DAOs are going to be the future. And I'm always like,
Yeah.
tell me one DAO that's actually a DAO.
Hmm?
Where is it fully decentralized? Where is it autonomous? And how is it an organization? Because more often than not, yeah, all we're doing is just recreating a corporate ladder that
Yes,
just happens to be spread across the world. But that's actually how all corporations work now, anyways. So
exactly.
I, I'm
Right.
still not convinced. So I'm glad that you've said that. And for everyone listening, hopefully, and if you're listening and you're just into golf and you don't know what a DAO is, go ahead, search that, Google it.
Yeah.
It is a fascinating structure and use of blockchain and use of value and use of kind of a democratic principle of voting around issues that the DAO or basically the club would be interested in looking into and putting resources towards. But anyways, getting away from the DAO philosophies there. Where are you going to be? Are you going to be at the Bitcoin conference? Are you trying to go to permissionless? And I think Salt Lake this year, when it comes to Web3, if anyone's listening from Web3 and blockchain, which obviously they are, this isn't necessarily a golf podcast, but it's good to have your brand on to kind of show also the breadth and depth of where Web3 can go. Because I'm a true believer that in the future, for example, I'm wearing this jersey. In the future, I'm going to be in a soccer shop looking for a jersey, and I'm going to opt to get the one that has the NFC or a QR code that when I scan it, I'm now a part of a digital community that
Yeah.
is, obviously for me, blockchain backed. Where are you looking forward when it comes to the rest of the year in 2024 for conferences if people want to try to like run into you?
Yeah, I'm planning on going to the permissionless in Salt Lake, hopefully. But my 100% what I'm working towards now, again, like in my head, I was going to have a full line of clothing with chips in it by November. That's not going to happen. But I hopefully will have one piece out by then with a chip in it. I am hoping to showcase something at NFT Paris in February That's where my eyes are right now.
Okay.
I've heard a number of people recommend that I go there. It also feels a little bit like more cool and fashiony, and there's some cool things going on there. So I'm like, if I could pop up with a cool NFC chipped golf wear item, I think that would be a great talking point. So yeah.
I think that's a great place. I mean, Paris is one of the probably, is it the, I feel like, what are the meccas of fashion?
Oh yeah.
Tokyo, London, New York, Paris,
Right.
Milan.
Yeah.
Like,
There you go. Look at you. Got it.
wow, look at that. I'm just so fashionable.
Fashion
Wearing
forward.
my fashion forward, my $12 Lionel Messi jersey. Um, before we kind of close out, I want to ask you a tough question, maybe a tough question. I don't know. When it comes to Web3, and you said you're part of some DAOs, you probably own some NFTs. Who are some Web3 influencers who you think would be ideal to rock the AIEA Golf brand? Maybe they play golf, maybe they don't. AIEA could be kind of like a Lululemon situation where it just becomes
Yeah.
a very sexy brand where people start to dissociate it from golf and it just
Right.
looks so good and so comfortable and you can just wear it out. And we live in a world, especially in the States, of athleisure. So
Yeah.
who are people maybe in the Web3 space who you'd be like, I really want this person to rock my wares?
Um, that's actually something I've been working on, finding that
Okay.
like a girl that can rep my gear that has that perfect intersection of golf and Web3 interest. I have an idea of where she is, but I don't
Okay.
have specific people. But I do have brands and groups that I follow heavily that I think they're doing amazing jobs. One is Boys Club, if you're
Yep.
familiar.
Yep.
I love how they're bringing, that's exactly what I'm trying to do with golf, what they're doing with Web3, just
Okay.
making it easy entry point, vibey, cool. You can still have fun in real life events, but you're learning something and there's no pressure. That's exactly what I'm trying to do with golf. I love them. I love the girls that started it. They're awesome. Also, 9DCC, I'm getting a lot of cues
Okay.
from, it's from G Money, so it's his brand.
Okay.
I love what they're doing with the NFCs in his clothing. It's like a true NFC clothing brand. So I'm taking a lot of cues from him. He does these cool pop-up events at NFT NYC, and he's really trying to bring in that intersection of fashion and Web3 too. So I have people that I'm like those two groups, if I could get some AIA golf gear on them, ugh, game over. I would just personally be happy. So
Well, yeah, sweet. And I wasn't sure if that was going to be a tough question, but I feel like when you try to think about your Web3 brand and then who you want to
yeah,
align with, I think it's really tough
it is.
because of what we learned in 2021 and 2022, where you had Matt Damon shilling crypto.com and then things kind of blew up. People were shilling Binance. Tom Brady got in trouble. I forget it's just like you
Yeah.
really got to be careful with who you align your ship with because things can go awry quickly. And, if you tie your brand to it, it could be really detrimental. But the ones you've outlined, Boys Club and G Money, I know G Money, but what can you say the other one again? The 9DCC, what was it?
9DCC. So that's his clothing brand with
Okay.
that he puts the NFCs in. Yeah,
Very cool.
it's worth checking out. It's super cool what he's doing.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out because I believe I follow him on X. So yeah. But speaking of
Cool.
social media, could you take a time and shout out where people can find you, the website? You and I obviously exchange on LinkedIn if people can reach out to you there, just all the
Yes.
places people can find you and Aya.
Yeah, so you can find Aya at aiagolf.com. That's AIEA golf.com. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, all the good ones. Just got in TikTok too, so TBD, how that goes. And then personally, you can find me on LinkedIn and all the platforms I just mentioned at Daniella Rosa. And yeah, reach out. Feel free to reach out.
I'm going to add all of those links down in the episode description. May or may not see you at Salt Lake. I'm kind of on the fence. I'm really with work. I don't know if they can't send me. Sometimes it's just like taking 3 or 4 days off is more difficult, even though I'm around crypto. So anyway,
Yeah, I get
but
it.
yeah, thanks for hopping on. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe. You're watching this on a podcast platform, please go ahead and subscribe. You can find us at More Than Blockchain on all social media. And if you enjoyed this, and especially if you know someone who plays golf or pickleball or any of the other sports, go ahead and please share this episode with them. So Daniela, thank you for taking the time. And I'm pretty
Ew.
sure we'll probably run into one another at one of these events.
We definitely will. Thanks again.